This is our official mission of Alex, as I like to call it, our formal mission statement. Alex is a learning object repository that equips educators with high quality instructional materials and content knowledge to address the needs of all learners in the application of academic standards. So obviously that's a very formal mission statement. More of the informal mission statement is we want Alex to be the one-stop shop for Alabama educators. We want Alex to be the place that you can go as an Alabama educator to find everything that you need for your classroom, whether it's standards, whether it's resources, whether it's lesson planning tools, whether it's student engagement activities. We want Alex to be the place that you can go to find all of these things for free. So you don't have to Google and hope that you find something that fits with your Alabama standards. You don't have to go to Teachers Pay Teachers and pay for something that's aligned with your Alabama standards. Alex can be the place that you can go to find all of those things, and it's all free to access and free to use. So we just had somebody tell us, we had Katie tell us she's been using Alex for a long time. And if you are also in that boat that you've been using Alex for a long time, hopefully you've been to the new Alex site since January and noticed things looked a little different. So Alex has been around since 2002, and obviously a lot changes over 23 years with education and with technology as well. So as of January 2025, we have completely revamped the Alex website. So if you were used to Alex in the past, it is going to look very different, and we think look a lot better as well as be much more functional and easy to use. If you had an Alex account in the past, this is a brand new platform, so you will need to create a new account to access some of these brand new features, which we'll talk about today. So if you haven't had a chance to create an account, we'll talk through later after our break time how to do that. In January of 2025, that was our big release, phase one, where you may have noticed a brand new look to the Alex site. In phase two, which was in May, so kind of towards the end of the school year, you may not have seen this yet. If you create an Alex account, you will have access to artificial intelligence tools, remix features, as well as commenting, sharing, collaborating. Right now, July, we are working through creating an open, trusted, and innovative digital learning ecosystem, meaning Alex is going to be able to cooperate with other learning management systems like Google Classroom, as well as some other things that we're working on. And then finally, the future. Where does Alex go from here? The future is up to you. We do welcome feedback. We want to make Alex the best that it can be for all of you. So I'll show you today where you can provide us with feedback. And of course, you're here with us today, so we are open to feedback now during this meeting. But if you start to use the site and you have some requests or some things that you would like to see, we do have a form where you can easily submit those to us. So even if you find those things after today's meeting, you can still get us that information. So these are some of the things that you can find on Alex, and we'll talk through today how you can get to all of these. So first we have our course of study standards. We have our course content collections, which is where the standards aligned learning resources will be housed. If you create an account on Alex, you will have access to, there we go, you will have access to my content collections, and then we'll also have our educational ecosystem. So we are going to move on to how you can find Alabama Course of Study Standards on Alex. So I'm going to give a brief introduction into how you can find these, how you can navigate through them, and then we are going to head to our first breakout room. So if you have been to Alex in the past, you probably were not used to seeing the screenshot that you currently see on the screen. So things are going to look a little different. So on our new website, the standards tab is going to be represented by a map icon. So you can see that red rectangle around the map icon there. The reason that it's represented by a map is because the standards are the map for your teaching. It's leading you to your destination. It's telling you your end goal. This is where you are trying to go. It's those course of study standards. So standards are the heart and soul of the Alex Learning Object Repository. Every resource that you find on ALEX is aligned with at least one Alabama course of study standard. In addition to finding those content standards on ALEX, and as a reminder, those content standards define the knowledge and skills that students should know and be able to do at the end of a grade or course. So you'll be able to find those content standards on ALEX just like you've been used to since 2002. You will also find the unpacked content on ALEX, and you'll have a chance to look at that in just a moment. The goal of this unpacked content is to help teachers plan for instruction, assessment, as well as select instructional materials for the classroom. A new thing that we've added that has been very popular and a lot of people have enjoyed finding these is the association between these different course of study standards. So for example, this school year, we are now implementing the 2023 Science Course of Study Standards. We have the crosswalks to the 2015 Science Course of Study Standards, so you can see how those two different curriculum updates compare. We have the alternate achievement standards available on ALEX and their association to the general education standards. We have assessment frameworks like NATE and ACT, and we have how those are associated to our Alabama course of study standards. And we also have vertical alignments for some of the subject areas as well. So that was our brief introduction. And now it is going to be time to head to our breakout rooms. But before we get to that breakout room section, let me give you some instructions. So first, you'll see that we're calling our breakout rooms collaborative exchange. And we're calling it that because we really do want you to collaborate with the people in your group. So you will need to have your microphone so that way you can talk to the people in your group. We'd encourage you to take your cameras, turn those cameras on so that other people in your group can see you, and that way you can really truly have a collaborative exchange and a discussion. So this is our first breakout room. This one's going to be our shortest one. The other ones will be a little bit longer. So you are going to, and I'll also drop these in the chat, these instructions here to make sure everybody knows what to do. You are going to have 10 minutes in your breakout rooms group to explore the standards tab on ALEX. So you're going to go to alabamalearningexchange.org and you are going to look for this little standards tab. So that's what you're going to start with in your breakout room. So you're going to go to alabamalearningexchange.org. You're going to click on the standards tab. Once you have gotten to that standards tab, you are going to work with your group to discuss what you notice. So I'm kind of leaving this open to see what you guys figure out. Discuss what you notice. Do you find anything that surprises you? And how could you use the standards tab and the content that you find there? How could you use that in your
I'm gonna
classroom
turn the
to
camera
support
on.
instruction?
Mm.
I am going to challenge you to see if you can find the unpacked content and the standard associations. So I've kind of mentioned those before. I didn't show you how to find it. So I'm going to challenge you to see if you can figure out within your collaborative groups, can you actually find the unpacked content in the standards associations? After our 10 minutes in the breakout rooms, we are going to come back together and ask some of our breakout room groups to share key takeaways, insights, any ideas that you had about how you could use the standards tab, the information that you find to enhance the planning and collaboration at your school when we all go back to school in a couple of weeks. So I'll have these instructions up here. If you have the slide deck open on your own device, then you can kind of have this up. I'll also broadcast these instructions to all of the breakout rooms as well to make sure that everybody can stay on track and know what you are supposed to do. So we are going to send everyone to breakout rooms. It looks like we have about 94 people. So we are going to have a lot of rooms here. And then after those 10 minutes are up, we'll come back together and we'll ask some of our breakout rooms to share what they've talked about. Before we head out, does anyone have any questions? All right. All right. So we are going to do 6 to 7 participants per room. I am about to hit our create breakout rooms button. So remember, you're not going anywhere in real life. You are just going to a different virtual meeting room. So I'm going to click create and you will head to your rooms in just a moment. All right, everyone, welcome back to our main room. I think we still have people trickling in. So we are going to ask that we do have some of you share what you were able to find. Before we ask about sharing, I'm going to ask, was anyone able to complete the challenge? Were you able to find the unpacked content and standard associations on Alex? So if the answer to that is yes, head over to the chat and just drop in a yes, I found it. Or you can tell us, no, I did not find it, because that lets me know that I need to show you that coming up next. So first in the chat, as we ask for people to come back in, waiting for everyone to regroup after the breakout rooms. If you were able to find the unpack content and standard associations, give us a yes. If you weren't able to find those, you can say no, not yet, and I'll make sure that you know where to go to find those. Okay, good. Okay. All right, good. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. I'm seeing some no. Trouble switching. Okay. Right. So if you were somebody who said no, I'm going to make sure that you know how to find those in just a moment. If you are somebody who had a question, I saw some questions about the WIDA standards, about the CTE standards. We'll make sure that you know where to go to find all of those, as well as the unpacked content and those standard associations. Before we get to that, I'm going to ask our breakout rooms to volunteer to share some of what they found, so key takeaways, insights, or practical ideas. So before I call out some names, do we have any volunteers who would like to share what they found on the standards tab?
I will share from Group 11.
Yeah.
This is a collaborative collection of different input, and
Hmm.
so I'm certainly not claiming credit for all of this wonderful insight. One of our members watched part of a tech tips video that she found in the section that talked about the new Alex and every tab and the function of every tab. We had a member who specifically explored her subject area of sixth grade science, and she found not only the standards, but she was able to find a place where she was given prior knowledge, expectations, what they should learn during, and what their learning should look like after. She also found a section called Cross-Cutting Concepts that showed her where other curriculum areas could be folded into her teaching.
Okay, awesome. I loved all of those answers. That was great. So I'm going to stop right there because that was such a great answer. What we are going to take a look at next are some of those things that Catherine just mentioned. So to make sure group 11, y'all found it, y'all got a lot of the things that we hope that you would find. If you were someone who answered not quite, I wasn't quite able to access all of that, we'll show you where to get it right now. So I'm going to switch over to a new tab, which is going to be on our Alex site. So we do have a new URL. So if you were used to alex.state.al.us or alex.alsde.edu, we do have a new URL. So make sure that you update your bookmarks. We are at alabamalearningexchange.org. The first time that you come to the site, you will get this pop-up window, which is important. This is going to be where the feedback form is. So if you have some feedback to give us, we've got a form where you can get in touch with us right there. Catherine mentioned the tech tips that somebody watched, and this is a link to our tech tips playlist right here. So essentially, kind of what all information you're learning about today, you will find it on those tech tips playlist, but it's in short little videos, like 5 minutes or less. So easy to digest. You can share those links out, but they're here and they're also on the homepage. So to get past this pop-up, you are going to click Let's Get Started. To get to the Standards tab, you are going to click on the map. Once I click here on the map, I am going to see all of my approved Alabama Course of Study standards. So some of the questions that we had as I was looking through our chat is, do we have the career technical education, the CTE standards? Yes, all of those are right here. We also asked, do we have the language development, the language learning standards? Yes, those are right here with WIDA. We have the assessment frameworks, ACT and NAEP. And we also have some retired frameworks down at the very bottom. So that's where you'll find the Science 2015 as well as the CTE 2008. So everything that you see from here on up are currently approved and implemented course of study standards. So now I'm going to demonstrate how to find, if you were somebody that said no to the challenge, I wasn't able to find the unpacked content or the standard associations, we are going to talk about that now. I'm going to click English Language Arts, but what I'm showing you is applicable to any subject area that you choose. So I'm just using this as an example, but the site will work the exact same way no matter what subject area that you're looking at. So the first thing that will pull up is going to be just this primary item card. This is referring to this whole course of study. If you are a teacher who loves to have that PDF, that like official board approved from the State Department of Education, that PDF document, it is right here for you. That document does have a ton of important information. So anytime there's a new course of study, or maybe you're new to a subject area or a grade level, we recommend reviewing this because it does have a lot of important information. But once you are familiar with that and you're ready to just access the course of study that is applicable to you in your classroom, all of those standards are digitized over here. So there's several ways that I can navigate through the standards. The first way is by just clicking the right arrows, and you'll see that I can get to all of my grade level standards that way. And you'll see once I get to kind of the little donut shaped circle within a circle, that's the lowest level. I can't go any further. You'll see that each level is color coded. So we've got grade levels, we have the content area, and then all of the yellow are going to be standards and the gray are going to be substandards. Now, depending on what subject area you're looking at, the colors might be a little different because every subject area is going to have different levels. Math is going to be different than science, which is going to be different from ELA, which is going to be different from social studies. So the terminology might be slightly different, the colors might be slightly different, but the way that the site works is the same. Once I find a standard that I want to learn more about, I can click on that standard and I will see the standard text right here. If I want to copy and paste this standard into another document, I can click this little icon right here. It turns into a clipboard. That standard is on my computer's clipboard. I can go paste it into another document, perhaps a lesson plan or something like that. Now, one of the things that you were challenged to find were the unpacked content. And so those are right here. You'll see them under the standard. I do think we had somebody mention there's not unpacked content for every subject area, and that is accurate. The unpacked content is for the primary academic subject areas. So ELA, math, science, social studies, and digital literacy and computer science. So that's where you'll find the unpacked content. I can expand these all at once, or I can do one at a time. And the goal of this unpacked content is to help teachers plan for instruction, plan for assessment, as well as select instructional materials. So the first thing you'll see here is teacher vocabulary. That teacher vocabulary is referring to words, concepts that the teacher should know. So this is not print this out and give it to the kids as a vocab test. This is, as a teacher, you make sure that you understand what these terms mean in order to teach the students this standard. Then we have identified the knowledge required by the standard. These are the concepts. The skills are what students should be able to do. And then finally, we have this understanding. So this is like the big idea. What do we want these students to carry on? In this case, they're kindergarten students. What do we want them to carry on to first grade? And what do we want them to carry past the school walls just into their real life. So these are our unpack content. The other thing that you were challenged to find were the standard associations. And I'm going to show you first, if you didn't see these little colored rectangles at the bottom of a standard, you are going to go to this little icon right here. If you hover over it, it says association options. It's arrows pointing in opposite directions. If you click on that, you will see the associations that are available for that particular subject area. So for ELA, we have the alternate achievement standards. We have the alignments to the ACT standards, as well as vertical alignments. So once I have turned those on, and you'll see you can turn them on and off with little check boxes. Once I have those turned on, then if I see a standard with this little colored rectangle, I can click on it to see the association. In this case, I'm looking at a vertical alignment. So this shows me how this particular standard progresses from kindergarten, how it becomes more rigorous in first grade, even more rigorous in second, even more rigorous in third. And you'll see these kind of blue highlights. That's highlighting what is the difference between each of the standards. So it pulls out how it changes over the progressions throughout the grade levels. This other little rectangle is going to be the association to the alternate achievement standards. So this is showing how this general education standard is associated with this alternate achievement standard. The other questions that we sometimes get when it comes to standards is how can I print out my grade level standards? To do that, you are going to click on the particular grade level that you are interested in. So I'll just use kindergarten as an example here. You are going to click on the printer icon, and then it'll pull up this print preview. So this will be all of my kindergarten standards. I can come over here and select what exactly I want to print out. Do I want my unpacked content printed out? Do I want my associations printed out? Do I want it color? Do I want it black and white? So I can decide exactly what I want to print out. And then once I've decided that, I can refresh my preview, and then it's going to let me see exactly what I'm going to get when I go to print this out of my printer. So I can click print and just save that as a PDF. I can actually print it out through my physical printer and have a copy of these. The other thing that sometimes people ask us about is downloading this information into a spreadsheet. So if you're somebody who loves a spreadsheet, you're going to go to this kebab menu, change it to table, and then you'll be able to get, in this case, the association. So if I wanted to download that to a CSV spreadsheet, I have that option. I can also download the standards as a spreadsheet. So that's something that is interesting or useful to you. That ability is there to download these into a spreadsheet. So I'll return it to tree view. We did have somebody I saw on the chat ask, how do I get to different subject areas? There's multiple ways you can do that. The first is just pressing the little back button, and it'll get you back to the standards main page. The other way that you can do that is by clicking, if you're looking at these little arrows pointing in opposite directions, I can click that, and then it comes up to switch frameworks, and I can select a different framework to change to. So either way, you can go back to the home page, select a new one, or you can just go directly to the one that you're looking for. Before we head off of the standards page and move on to talking about resources, does anyone have any questions about these standards? Okay, and I see Kristen, she wants the paper. Okay. So Kristen Ballard, did that answer your question about how to print? Yes. Okay, good. That is a question that we do get a lot, and I just went to Zoom, but I'll back it up. All right, good. So our final thing I wanted to show everyone before we move on to looking at our different resources is our course of study and textbook adoption cycle. So everyone kind of knows where we've been in the past and where we're going. So as I mentioned kind of towards the beginning of our presentation, those 2023 science standards are being implemented this year. So that's what you will find on Alex. But we still have those 2015 science standards available. So if you've been used to teaching those, for 10 years, you can go look at those crosswalks to see how the 2015 standards are correlated to the 2023 standards to hopefully make that transition a little bit easier. So that way you can kind of see the difference and see what's changed. The social studies and arts education standards were board approved. So those are currently on Alex. The social studies is currently on Alex. Arts education, we are currently working on. If we have any arts teachers with us today, then those art standards are very complicated and there is a lot of them. So that is in the works. We are currently working on getting those into Alex. The digital literacy and computer science standards are currently in committee being worked on getting updated. So as soon as those are board approved, which, hopefully if everything goes right with the schedule here, hopefully will be at the beginning of 2026. As soon as those are board approved, they will get digitized and will be available on Alex as well. So now we are going to move into how to find standards-based learning resources on Alex. So far, we have already talked about our standards tab. So now we are going to move into talking to our course collections tab, which is represented by a teacher standing in front of a board, because these course content collections are going to have resources that you can use to teach your students. So that's why that little icon was selected. This is your one-stop hub for finding ready-to-use instructional resources to teach the standards in your classrooms. So I'm going to give a brief introduction into the three different types of resources that you'll find on Alex. And then we're going to head to our breakout rooms and you are going to have a chance again to explore to see if you can find these different resources. So please notice these different icons that we have on the screen, the little link as well as the little list that's blue. Those are going to be how you can tell the difference between these different types of resources that you find. So first, we have a classroom resource. These are instructional tools that are designed to align with the Alabama Course of Study standards to support student achievement. So the way that we get these resources on Alex is that we ask Alabama educators to come to training. We provide them with training to create these resources. Classroom resources are third-party resources that were curated by an Alabama educator. So we've had an Alabama educator evaluate these resources. So they didn't write them, they're from a third-party site, but they evaluated them, make sure that they were high quality, and aligned them with an Alabama Course of Study standard. So these classroom resources will link out to a third-party site, but everything that you find with these classroom resources will be free to access, free to use. You don't have to pay for anything. The next level up, we have a mini lesson. If you have used Alex in the past, we used to call these learning activities. We've transitioned to calling them mini lessons. That's a little bit more descriptive as to what they actually are. They are a little mini lesson. They are a part of a lesson. They'll either be specified as a before activity, which would be taught at the beginning of a lesson, like an introductory activity. Or they might be a during activity, which is really going to be that lesson core. Or they might be specified as an after activity, which will be meant to taught at the conclusion of a lesson. So kind of a wrap up at the end. So as a teacher, sometimes you only need a little mini lesson. You have the other pieces. You could also put together a before, a during, and an after mini lesson to create a complete lesson plan from start to finish. The final type of resource that you'll find on Alex is a lesson plan, and I won't go too much into that because we're probably all familiar with it. But this will have all of the components of a lesson from start to finish. Now, before we take a look at these in our breakout rooms, I do want to remind you that everything that you find on Alex is free to access, it's free to use, and they are Creative Commons licensed, meaning if you find a lesson plan that you like, you can print it out and you can complete that lesson to fidelity in your classroom. You can share that lesson plan with other educators. You can do kind of whatever you want with it, except for sell it for money. So you can't use it for commercial purposes, but you can use it for educational purposes in your classroom. You can also remix these lesson plans, and we'll get more into detail about how you'll be able to do this. But if you find a lesson plan and you like bits and pieces of it, but maybe not the whole thing, and you kind of want to change that up, you have the complete ability to do that. And we'll talk more after we create our Alex accounts about how you can remix lesson plans. So we are about to move into a breakout room. This is going to be another 10-minute session. And so we will ask that you join the breakout room, that you collaborate with the others in your breakout room. This time we are going to get a little bit more specific into what you're doing in your breakout room. So within your room, go ahead and assign roles, meaning have somebody kind of be that group facilitator, to be the leader, to make sure everybody's participating. Have somebody be the recorder to jot down those ideas ready to share out at the end. If you have a tech expert in your group, that can be somebody to kind of troubleshoot any tech issues. We'll also ask that you have a presenter who's kind of ready to share what that recorder wrote down, because we'll ask people to share at the end. So your goals during this breakout room are to find the course content collections tab. So that's going to be the teacher standing in front of the chalkboard. You are going to review the available resources. So again, I'm leaving this pretty broad to see what you guys are able to figure out. Review those available resources and see if you can find any resources that you could use in your classroom this upcoming school year. Once you find those resources, discuss how you could use those resources to support your instruction or student engagement in your classroom. Now, in this little purple bubble, I have you another challenge. So those of you who are able to just do all this real easily and you need a little something extra to take up your 10 minutes, see if you can find an example of a classroom resource, a mini lesson, and a lesson plan. So see if you can find each of those three things. After our 10 minutes are up, be ready to share one resource and how you might use it in your planning or teaching. Okay, before we head to our breakout rooms, do we have any questions about your instructions? And I'll broadcast them again to make sure everybody knows what to do once we're in our rooms. All right, then we will head back to our breakout rooms. So you should be heading back to the same one that you were in previously. So I'm going to open up all the rooms. It'll take you about 60 seconds to get there, and then we'll have about 10 minutes in our rooms.
Group 12 would like to share.
All right, well, go right ahead. Tell us what you found.
We were science and ELA, but we did find that the mini lessons, and we just discussed this as a group, would be a great benefit, not only for new teachers, but veteran teachers, because it is aligned step by step. It provides details to help you with your before, your during, after those strategic teaching practices that we're always encouraged to use. And then, of course, it allows us to just kind of stay up to date and innovative in our teaching practices. So we really feel like the mini lessons would be a great benefit. The only downside we saw is that if it's a third party resource link, that may not work, in the future, possibly, other than that, everything else is great. So just making sure, there might be a time that the link may work or not work. But other than that, the lessons were designed in a very strategic manner.
Great. And that's a great point. I appreciate you sharing, Keisha. And I'll also say, if you are ever exploring the Alex website and you find a broken link, please let us know. Those are all things that we have to update manually. So if you're ever exploring and you happen to find something that doesn't work, please contact us so that way we can get it updated. Because we definitely don't want broken links on our site, but we do the best we can. But with tens of thousands of resources, it can be a slow process for us to manually check everything. So let us know if you find a broken one, and we're always happy to get that updated. Do we have anyone else who would like to share? Right. Well, I'm going to show you quickly on our homepage if you were somebody who maybe you weren't as advanced as that group and you didn't meet the challenge to find all of those different resources, we're going to talk through how you can find these different resources. So I'm going to first start here on our homepage. Now I'm going to show you two different ways that you can access these standards-based resources. So the first way is by going through our course content collections tab, which is what you probably just did, what you hopefully did in your breakout room. You can also find them through the standards page. So I'm going to show you that as well. So if I were to go to the standards, and you might have noticed this during our previous session when you were, looking at these different standards, you might have noticed this bright orange little button that has a lightning bolt next to it. If I were to click on that, that is going to show me resources that are aligned with that particular standard. So in this case, we do have this standard. If I include secondary alignments, I'll also find that lesson plan as well. So that's another way if you're looking at the standards. If you're wondering what that bright orange button is, it was showing you those standards aligned resources. What you just probably navigated through with your group was by clicking the course content collections tab. Now you will notice here this very important note, only subjects, areas with aligned resources are displayed. So this, of course, is not every subject area. This is subject areas that do have standards-based resources aligned on the Alex website. So I'm going to demo here again with English language arts, but what you see me doing here with the clicks and the navigation, it will work the same way in any subject area. So right now I'm looking at middle school, but of course I can change up my grade. The first thing that I'm going to see here is all of my different levels of standards, and I can click through to find those. I'm going to look here through the critical literacy, and I'm going to find my first standard, and I see that there's 9 different resources. So you'll see the standard itself, and then you'll see this blue button that indicates how many resources are aligned with that particular standard. For this standard, we have these different resources, and you'll notice that some of these are links, and these would all be classroom resources. Some of these are videos, so you'll see those indicated with that little video icon. So I can click through and navigate this way. You see this particular standard does have some lessons as well as mini lessons available with it. So I'm going to click on one of these to kind of show the different parts of a lesson plan. So the first thing that you'll see is the standard up at the top. We have a summary of this mini lesson. You'll notice that because this is a mini lesson, it is just a part of a lesson plan. So this is the during or kind of the core of a lesson, meaning if a teacher were to use this in his or her classroom, they would need to put an introductory activity before this mini lesson and a conclusion or wrap-up activity at the end. You'll see these different links here. So those are all going to be external links. In this case, this is going to a ReadWorks passage. So you can click on that to go to that third-party link. Of course, ReadWorks is free to access, free to use. You'll find over here all of the different components of the mini lesson. So we have our learning objectives or targets. We have the instructions for the activity itself. We have the assessment strategies, the background preparation for the teacher, as well as the links to any digital tools that the teacher might need. In this case, this article on ReadWorks. There's also a lesson plan here, so I'll pull this up so we can kind of see the difference. You'll notice a mini lesson was just, a part of a lesson. In this case, the teacher instruction, it is going to have a before activity, a during activity, and an after activity. So it's a complete lesson from start to finish. If you would like to print any lesson plans or mini lessons out, you'll see that you have the option to print. All you have to do is click that printer icon. You can also open it up in a new window. So like you wanted this in a new tab or a new window, there's the option there. If you would like to share this with somebody else, you can copy this lesson link to Clipboard. You can text it or email it or share it with someone else so they can access it as well. So I'm going to take us back. Hold on, let me get this out of the way. There we go. Take us back to our slideshow. And this slide that you see right here, all of these links are active. So if you ever want to explore those in the future, you can. And now I have a question, and you can either unmute, you can raise your hand, you can drop your answer into the chat so we can all see it. I want you to think about when you could use ALEKS resources in your classroom. So you can raise your hand, you can unmute and share your answer, or you can drop your answer in the chat. When could you use ALEKS resources? All right, so we have any times, small groups, lesson planning. We're getting lots of good answers in the chat, so I'm trying to read those out as they come in. And I encourage everybody to go look. Probability lessons. Yeah. And see early finisher activities for those students who finish quickly and they need something else to do. You might can give them a resource. Yeah, oh, sub-plans, that's another good one. So there are lots of different answers. So there was lots of good answers in the chat. These are some answers that I have come up with as well. I hope all of you have a very robust curriculum provided to you at your schools and that you have everything that you need to teach the Alabama Course of Study Standards to your students. But we also know that sometimes those curriculums that we have at our schools, there may be some gaps because they're not written specifically for Alabama Course of Study Standards. So these ALEKS resources can serve as a supplement to what curriculum you currently have in your classroom. If you find some things teach the Alabama Course of Study Standards very well, maybe some things don't teach it as well and you need some extra support, you need some extra instructional resources, ALEKS can be a place that you go for that. We do have a lot of teachers that like to use the ALEKS lesson plans for sub-plans, because it's just kind of a print and go. Everything that is there, you can use it. You don't have to, change it up. Everything's free to access, free to use. It's written in a step-by-step format that subs could use. We also have some people, they mentioned in the chat, those classroom resources. You might find some really good interactive activities that you could use with students who finish early or maybe who just need some small group as well, some small group instruction. So we are almost to our break time. But before we get to our break time, I'm going to ask that you get to this link and I'll demo how this works. So you are going to access this link to complete a Sparkl activity. So this is going to be kind of a break plus a little independent activity time. And I'll show you how this works. I'll put this link in the chat, or you can use a QR code, whichever one works best for you. The option is there. If you have this slide deck pulled up, this big purple link up at the top, it's an active link, so you can just click on it. That might be the easiest if you already have the slide deck pulled up, but if you don't, I'll drop this link in the chat, or you can snap the QR code. Once you click on this link, it is going to take you to a page that looks like this. It's going to say lesson activity, mini lesson, real life algorithms, plant a seed. So this is introducing you to something that we're going to talk about after our break, which is Sparkl activities. So we're going to talk about that as well as our lesson plan companion. So this is kind of prepping us for that. Everything that you have seen so far today during our session, the standards, the resources, all of that you can access, anyone can access on Alex without creating an account. So all of that you can get to just as we demoed today, you can get to all of that without an Alex account. However, if you would like to personalize your Alex experience a little bit more, you want to customize what you see, and you want to start creating your own content, you do need to create an Alex account, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But before we get into creating those accounts, I do want to let you know some of those features that you'll be able to access once you have an account. The first thing that you'll be able to do is access My Content Sandbox. So in the past, if you've had an Alex account, this was called the Alex Workspace. Now it's called a sandbox. And just like you probably had sandboxes on other sites, this is where you can kind of play around and build things and knock things down and start over. So this is going to be a place where you can create your own lessons from scratch. You can remix existing lessons, meaning you can find a lesson that was created by another Alex author. You can make a copy of it and then edit it and update it for your own use. You can create Sparkl activities and resources. So that's going to be the content sandbox. You can favorite collections. So if you are a sixth grade science teacher and you know, I want to go back to my sixth grade science standards and the science resources, that's where I'm going to be focusing all of my attention. You can actually bookmark that so you just get to it first every time. You don't have to click around to find it. You can create your own content collections. So if you know I am teaching a lesson on text evidence, I'm teaching a unit on text evidence, and I want to collect all of these resources into, a little digital folder. Kind of imagine that in your mind. This is my digital folder where I'm finding all these resources and I'm putting them in one spot for easy access. You can create your own content collection. Once you do that, you'll have the ability to share that collection with other educators. So you can share a link with them, or you can share a subscription code with them, and they'll be added to that folder. So they'll be able to see everything that you put in that collection, as well as if you give them rights to, they will also be able to add things to the collection as well. So you can collaborate in that way. If you know somebody who has created a content collection, so they've created their own little digital folder and they want to share it with you, you can do the opposite thing. You can subscribe to a collection that was created by another Alex teacher. So once you create an account, you will have access to all of these personalization features. And that's what we're going to spend on the second half of today's session looking at. So in order to access all of this, you do need to create an Alex account. So we are going to ask that everyone attempts to do this today, and I'm going to go through the instructions. And of course, we also want to be here to troubleshoot any issues that you might have in creating an account and get those straightened out before you leave today. So I'm going to go through the directions first, then I'll actually go to the website and demo how all of it works. So as we mentioned previously, you can access all standards and standards aligned learning resources without an Alex account. But if you want to begin creating your own content or start to personalize your Alex experience, you do need to create an account. So the first step is going to be going to the Alex website, alabamalearningexchange.org. In the top right corner, you'll see a blue sign in button. You are going to click that. We recommend if you have a Google account, whether that's through school, whether that's your personal Google account, we do recommend using those because Google verifies you automatically and you don't have to remember an additional username and password. You are just verified through your existing Google account. So that's going to be the fastest and easiest method to get your Alex account created. However, if you don't have a Google account, or we know some districts may use Google, but they might block those external accounts like Alex, then there is another way to create an account, which I'll demo in a second, but it's going to be very simple. You're going to type your first name, your last name, and an email address. So we're not asking for much information, just first name, last name, email address. You do need to make sure that you are able to access that email address. In order to get signed into Alex, you have to go to that email. You have to find the email that was sent from Alex, and it has a verification email in it that contains a one-time sign-in link. So if you're choosing to use that method, create an account, you've got to make sure I can access this email address and go click on that verification link. You'll get the one-time sign-in link, and then you'll create your password after clicking on that sign-in link. The first time that you sign up for your Alex account, you will get a pop-up with the terms and conditions and privacy policy for the site. So we ask that you review those before clicking accept and beginning using your Alex account. So I have all these instructions. If you have this slide deck pulled up, these will be there for you, but I'm also just going to demo how this will look once you actually do this. So you can follow along with me on your screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is head to the Alex homepage, which is alabamalearningexchange.org. And you'll see that there's this purple button on this pop-up. So you can click that. There's also a sign-in button down at the bottom of that pop-up. So you can click on that. So either one, but I'm going to go through this method and click the blue sign-in button on the top of the screen, on the top of the page. So once I click that, this is what I'm going to see. Now, again, the easiest thing, as I said, was just clicking on Google. You can see I'm already signed into my Google account, so I could just log in automatically by clicking on that. For right now, I'm going to show you the other method. So if you do not have access to a Google account or it does not work for you for whatever reason, you can click Create Account. And this gives you some instructions. Those instructions are going to be to enter your first name, your last name, and email address. Whatever email you're entering here, you're going to want to make sure you can access right now, because you are going to receive an email with a one-time activation link for your new account. Once you click on that one-time activation link, you will be sent to Alex, automatically signed in, and you'll be asked to establish and make up your own password. So this is option 2 if you're unable to use a Google account. So I'm going to pause and give everybody some time to try to create their Alex account. If you have any issues or need some troubleshooting help, feel free to unmute, or you can put those questions in the chat and we'll get those questions answered. But I'll leave these kind of written directions up here. All right, so I'm going to transition over to the Alex website. So once you create an account, from here on out, when you go to the Alex homepage, you click the sign in button. You will either type your email address and your password if you chose that create an account option. Got your username and your password. If you were able to log in using your Google credentials, then it'll just pop up, and all you have to do is click the Google account that you want to sign in with. And then once you click that, you're automatically verified through Google. I didn't have to remember an additional username or password. It just logs me in automatically. So once you have logged in, now if you go to the My Content Collections tab, which is going to be represented, it's like folders with a little person right there. If you click on that, now you will have access to the content collections. Now, the first time you log in, you will only have one that says My Content Sandbox. So I've got some other collections up here that are already created. But the first time you log in, you will just have this gray My Content Sandbox. Before we get into that, I do want to show you some of the options that you have as far as creating collections. So you'll see that I've created several collections here: computer science coding, nonfiction text, phonemic awareness, biogeochemical cycles. So if I wanted to share this collection with another teacher, you can see I've got some things added here. I can add additional content to this. So if I wanted to find something about the water cycle, I can search all items in Alex. I can search in science. I can type water cycle, keywords or terms. I can type water cycle to find what resources are available on Alex. So if I wanted to add that one, I just click beside it, click add selected items. So it's pretty simple to create these content collections. You just find things that are what you're looking for and you can add them. And then once I've added them, I can share collection with other users. I get a share code, or I can even email it directly to somebody else. So I can share with an email, I can give a subscription code. So this is a really good way that you can collaborate with other educators. I can also favorite these collections. So it's like a little bookmark. So if I know this is a place where I want to go, I'm going to want to find that repeatedly. Here are some of my favorited collections. So all I have to do is just go to my favorites and they're bookmarked there, easy for me to access and easy for me to use. So that's one of the benefits of creating an account is you're able to create all these collections, bookmark them to your favorites. You can then, once you created these, then you can share them out as well as add other people to those collections so you can start to build these collections together with another teacher. So I'm going to head back to our slide deck and we are going to transition to talking about the Alex Lesson Plan Companion. So before I answer this question, do we have anyone who knows what the Alex Lesson Plan Companion is? You've heard of it, you know what it is, you can put it in the chat or you can unmute and share with us. So we have some in the chat that says, no, no idea, never heard of it. And if you have not heard of it yet, you're not behind. This just released in May. So if you have, rightfully so taken a break this summer, then you may not have played around with this yet. And we're excited to introduce it to you today. So the Alex Lesson Plan Companion is a teacher-focused tool that leverages a powerful language model, a large language model, also known as artificial intelligence, to offer personalized suggestions based on your inputs, like content, standards, and key concepts. So if you are familiar with other AI lesson planning tools like Magic School AI and other things that are similar that you probably have to pay a subscription fee for, we are now offering those tools for you on Alex for free. You just have to create an account, and we are going to demo how you can use those tools today. So the first thing that you'll see here on this little video, hopefully it'll pop up. And this is just a quick little walkthrough, but we'll demo all of this in real time and you'll have a chance to play around with it as well. You'll see on this lesson plan companion, it is a complete lesson. Over on this left side, you'll see all of these components and you'll see how these different suggestions are being generated to create the different components to the lesson. So this, we hope, will be very easy for you to use. And hopefully save you some time, which is really the end goal. You don't have to come up with all of this, just off the top of your head. You don't have to just search the internet randomly and hope you find something good. This is going to suggest actual standards-based activities that go along with the lesson. So I'm going to demo how this works. You'll see some written instructions on the screen and you can follow along with me. You will also have a long time 20 minutes in your breakout rooms to dive into this a little bit deeper because this is the most in-depth thing that we're really going to look at today. So you will have a good amount of time to explore in your breakout rooms. But before we get to those breakout rooms, I do want to demonstrate how to actually get to this point. So I'm going to get out of our slide deck here. So once you have logged into Alex, so that's step number one, is log into Alex. And if you've got this pulled up in another tab or another window, you can follow along with me. Step number 2 is to click on My Content Collections. So step 1 is log in. Step 2, click on My Content Collections tab. And then you're going to look for the gray tile that says My Content Sandbox. So we went to Alex, alabamalearningexchange.org. We logged in, My Content Collections tab. Now we're going to click on the gray tile that says My Content Sandbox. Once we've clicked on that, you'll see that we have 3 different categories here. If this is the first time that you've logged into Alex, all of yours will probably say 0 content item, so that's okay. Of course, I've got a lot of stuff in my content sandbox, but for yours, if this is the first time, it might just say 0. What you are going to click on next is lessons. So we went My Content Collections. We clicked on the gray tile, My Content Sandbox, and now we're going to click on Lessons. And you'll see here, I've got lots of lessons that I've worked on and created, but you might not have anything yet, and that's okay. The button that you are looking for is Add Content. If you are on like a smaller laptop, I'm on a really big screen now. If you're on a smaller type laptop or a tablet, you may have to scroll down a bit to get to this Add Content button. So if you're not seeing that, you may have to scroll down to find it. But you're looking for a gray plus sign Add Content button. If I am to click that Add Content button, this is what's going to pop up. You're going to have 3 different options up here at the top, and I'll kind of talk through what those are. The first thing is search existing. So we have talked through the remix option. So if I have a lesson that I found on Alex, and I'll just use water cycle again here as an example. If I have a lesson that I found and I like part of the lesson, but I want to change some things in that lesson, I can actually add that lesson to my content sandbox. So I typed in water cycle. I got this long list. I'm just selecting the first one just to demo this. I clicked the checkbox. I clicked add selected items. And now that mini lesson on the water cycle is going to be right here in my content sandbox. So essentially, I've made a copy of it and I can edit it. So I like parts of this lesson, this mini lesson, but I don't like the whole thing. I want to add more. I want to change it. I want to update it. I can do that. I've made a copy of the original that is now in my sandbox. I can go in to edit it, and now I can edit anything that I want to. So that's a way that you can remix existing lesson plans. You find something, you like parts of it, but not the whole thing. I can make a copy and change whatever I would like to go use it in my classroom. All right, so I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to go back to add content to get to this screen. We just talked about search existing. That's your remix option. I can also import shared. So if I have a teacher who has shared with me a lesson ID, so it'll be like 4 digits that starts with the L and then 4 digits afterwards. If a teacher has shared that with me, this is the place I go to type that in to import it into my sandbox. But now if I want to get into that lesson plan companion and that AI tool, I'm going to click Create New. And then I'm going to click Create New Lesson Plan. Now, I am going to pause to read some of this because it is important. But again, once I go through these directions, you're going to have 20 minutes in your breakout rooms to explore this in depth. So right now is just demo time. But the Lesson Plan Companion is a teacher-driven tool that leverages a large language model, which is also known as artificial intelligence, to offer suggestions based on your inputs. So if you've used any AI tool like Gemini or ChatGPT or any of the other countless ones, videos that are out there, you know that that artificial intelligence tool, that large language model, is simply responding to your prompts. So it works the same way here. The content that you input, the responses that you get from that large language model are based on your input. So the better inputs you give it as far as standards, vocabulary, etc., the better its responses, the more specific the responses are going to be. This lesson plan companion is going to include prompts for essentially all stages in the lesson planning process. You do not have to fill every one of those out. You fill out what is most useful for you in your classroom. So we'll take a look at all of these different prompts over here on the left side. So you'll see there's a lot, and depending on what you need in your classroom, in your school, you may need to fill all of these out. You may not need to fill all of them out, and you can leave them blank, except for these first two. So you do need a title, you do need to select at least one content standard, but from overview down to materials and resources, it's up to you which prompts you complete. So I'm going to write a lesson title. I'll just say my lesson plan for July. And then I'm going to select a content standard. So I clicked that orange add button. And then the standards are going to pop up and they're going to look very similar, almost exactly the same as what we looked at earlier in the standards tab. The difference is going to be now they're going to have little check boxes beside them. So I'm just going to choose, I'm on science. For time purposes, I'll just stick with science. But if I wanted to switch, when you do this on your own and you want to switch to a different subject area, you're going to click these arrows. And then you'll have access to all of those academic standards. So you can select any of those to look at, any of the career tech. So you can switch to anything that you want. I'm just going to look at science right now, and I'm just going to select standard 1 for science. So I'm going to click that little checkbox. And so now that standard is aligned with my lesson plan. And I'm ready to move on to the next prompt. Now, when we talk about this overview, this is like a summary of the lesson plan. I don't have a summary yet because I don't have a lesson plan created. So I'm going to skip that one for right now. So you don't have to necessarily go in order. You can skip around as you need to. But now I'm going to get to the objectives or targets. If I already know what my lesson objectives are, I already have that in my mind, I can go ahead and type this out. I can write an I can statement. I can write a students will be able to. I can plan an investigation. So I can type if I want to. I could go copy and paste from another document if I wanted to, or I can use my large language model. So you'll see that tool. It's represented by a little robot icon, and it'll say suggest. So I can click that suggest button. And I'm going to get this reminder about artificial intelligence. I'm going to pause to read again because this is important for all of us to remember. Our lesson suggestions are generated by a large language model, also called artificial intelligence, based on the input that you have already put into your lesson plan. So in this case, all I've put so far is a standard. So that is what my prompts here are going to be based on. As a reminder, artificial intelligence is not truly intelligent. You, as the educator, are the expert in your classroom. You're the expert on your subject area. You're the expert on the students in your classroom. You're the expert of your classroom and how things need to go in your classroom and your standing procedures. So all of that to say, this artificial intelligence tool is going to give you some great suggestions, but you as the educator are the final arbiter of the information that's taught in your classroom. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you always evaluate this for accuracy and for relevancy in your classroom. So I'm going to say got it after giving all of those disclaimers. And now my LLM, my little robot friend who's working in the background, is going to give me, starting off, with 5 different options. So I can read through these 5 different options and decide what do I really want to focus on in this particular lesson. And I'm going to read all these. If I was doing this for my real classroom, I would read all of them carefully. But for time purposes now, I'm just going to select this second one. So it's telling me that this objective I'm going to focus on is cause and effect, and I'll click done. Now I'm going to get to an opening question. Again, I could skip this, but maybe I want some opening questions to get it going in the classroom, kind of open up my lesson with this. Now that I have a standard and I have my objectives or targets, the suggestions that you see here are based on the content that I have already entered so far. So I can decide maybe I like this one. I don't like this one. I want that one to go away. I can click that little red X, and maybe I want some more. So if you weren't happy with those first 5 suggestions that you received, you can ask that large language model to give you another 5 to see if you like any of them better. So in this case, I'll say that one was my favorite, so I'll let that one stick there. And then what I also really like is once I have an opening question, I can suggest a model response. So if I were to ask my students that opening question, what would I expect them to respond with? So that helps me as a teacher in the classroom. If my students aren't really getting where I intended them to get, that question is not really sparking the curiosity or the responses I had hoped. I have a model response here that I can maybe kind of lead or encourage those students to get to. So I'm going to click done. You'll see that we have prior knowledge here. I'm going to skip that for right now to demo the teacher instructional phases of this lesson plan. So these would actually be those lesson plan activities. We have teacher instruction, guided practice, and independent practice. So this is formatted in that I do, we do, you do model. So starting off with the teacher instruction, then getting into that guided practice, which is teacher modeling, student collaboration. And then at the end of the lesson, this would be the independent practice, the time for students to show what they actually learned. So I'm going to show here, if I want to use my large language model, tell me some ways that I, as the teacher, could introduce this concept to students. I can ask the model for suggestions, and it's going to give me some different options here. So maybe I decide I want to start off with a demonstration, so I can add that. Now, if you like part of this, but you want to change it up, of course, I could go in and I can make any edits that I want to. So again, this is a starting suggestion. You as the teacher can go in and make whatever change you want. You'll notice here that I can add in links. So if I have
He didn't ask for it.
all right, Tracy, if you could mute, please, we'd appreciate it. So you can add in links to additional resources. You can add in images. You can add in videos. You can also insert classroom resources from Alex as well. So if you have found a video that is related to this standard and you want to insert that video into your lesson plan, you can do that by clicking that resource button and searching existing resources to add. So that's an option as well. So for right now, this was just a demo. I want to make sure that we have enough time for all of you to test this out on your own. So I'm going to click save and close. And now you'll see my lesson plan is right here in my content sandbox. So if I wanted to come back to this later today or tomorrow to finish it up, I do have that option. I can also use this little kebab menu to copy the resource link to share it with other educators, or I could share it directly with that lesson ID code. All right, so we are about to head into our next collaborative exchange. So our next time in our breakout rooms, this is going to be our longest session of our breakout rooms because we know there's a lot to play with in that lesson plan companion. So we'll go over our directions first, and then we'll let everybody head to their breakout rooms and see what you can find out. So in your breakout room, you are going to work through that lesson plan companion on Alex. So you will need to be signed into your Alex account. If there's someone in your breakout room group who had some technical difficulties, wasn't able to create an account for some reason, we'll ask that those of you who were able to create an account, you kind of help those people see how this works. So that way, once they get their account ready to go, you'll know what to do. The first thing that you're going to do is assign roles. So you can stick with the same roles that you had with your group in the last session. You can switch it up, but maybe have a group leader, somebody who's recording the ideas, somebody who's troubleshooting tech or navigating through that tech, as well as a presenter, somebody who will be willing to share once we all come back to our main room. As a reminder, the first thing that you have to do on the lesson plan companion is enter a standard. So you won't be able to do any of the other parts until you select a standard. So if you're all working independently, you can all choose a standard that you know you'll teach next year. If you kind of are all working together and creating one lesson, you can just select one. You are going to work together to complete these sections of the lesson plan: the learning objectives, the instructional strategies. So those are the teacher instruction, the group work, kind of that we do part, that collaborative instruction, and the independent practice at the end. We'll also ask that you check out that assessment section and see what type of assessment strategies you can find. As you are working through this, you're going to discuss how the lesson plan companion could support your planning, your resource use, or collaboration with other teachers at your school or in your district. Then we will ask for some people at the end to kind of share their draft idea from their lesson plan and what they found about how those tools helped them create a lesson. So we do have 20 minutes. I will again broadcast those directions into the breakout room. So hopefully kind of keep people on track and make sure nobody gets lost in the next 20 minutes. Before we start our breakout rooms, does anyone have any questions? Oops. Any questions about what you are to do in your breakout room? All right, then we will reopen our breakout rooms. You should be heading back to the same one. And if you have any issues getting into those breakout rooms, please let us know and we'll make sure you get to the right spot.
Hannah,
Go
I have a
here.
question. I'm sorry. Well, so my group, we were walking through, and I noticed one of my team members, they didn't have the tab for add content. So do you have to be in Google Chrome? Does that make a difference on which browser you're in?
To my knowledge, it would not, but if you don't see that gray add content button at the bottom of the screen, what we have found for some people is depending on how big their device is, they might have to scroll down, or if they have their browser view zoomed in so they can't see the whole window, they may have to zoom out so they can see the whole thing to scroll down. So I don't think the browser itself makes a difference, but the view that you're looking at, that may have something to do with it. So if you were somebody who was unable to see that gray add content button, that should be at the very bottom of your window, you may have to scroll or you may have to zoom out on your view to make sure that you see it. And then also a good point, I think this may have been discussed in the chat. If you are currently trying to access this on a phone or a mobile device, we're still working on optimizing the mobile device view. So it's going to look best if you're on a desktop or a laptop or a tablet. If you're trying to do all this on the phone, you may have a difficult time seeing the whole view.
That was what I was going to ask, Ms. Bradley.
Okay.
We're in the same group.
Yes. Okay. Did that
Thank
help
you.
with your question?
It did.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have another. Okay, hold on. I'm seeing in the chat. The AI suggestions to build the lesson plan had to go back and select a video through a separate resources tab. Yes, so there is a way to integrate it all together into your lesson plan. Let me see if I can. So that was a question, Blanche. Let me go back to this. So if I wanted to add a resource within my lesson plan so it's not separate, I can click, I'll just do this edit, wherever I wanted to put my resource, say I wanted to add it here, any question, I just click that gray resource button. And then I can search an existing one that's already in Alex. I'm just going to use any sort of random type word here. So maybe if I wanted to add that one, I can click add selected item. And now that resource link will be available here in my lesson plan. And then that link will also be available down at the bottom. So you'll have it kind of within this lesson plan. It's within that exact section that I put it, but then it'll also be available down at the materials and resources button. And then if I were, let me get out of my editor, if I were to want to print this out, then those resources that I put will all show up as QR codes in the bottom as well. So I can click on them to access this, or if I've printed it out, I can have all those resources as a QR code. Did that help answer your question, Blanche? I don't have the chat up right now, but hopefully that did.
Yes, she said it did. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, we're going to move on to, we're getting to the end of our session for today. So we're going to kind of take our last 15 minutes to talk through our Sparkl student activities and then leave some time at the end for any last questions, as well as making sure everyone has access to the sign out link. So I'm going to ask if anyone knows, if you were somebody who was able to get into that Sparkl activity earlier, what are Sparkl student activities? So you can put it in the chat or you can say it out loud. This is what you did earlier where you had to type in your first name, last name, or maybe you added me as a teacher. All right, so we have interactive learning, interactive formative assessment. Yes. So we've had some great responses in the chat. So what we've looked at previously with Alex when it comes to the lesson plans, when it comes to the standards, the lesson plan companion, those are all things that teachers are going to use. Students are not necessarily going to be looking all those up on Alex. The Sparkl student activities are going to be activities for students. And the goal of those are to be engaging, and they are also gamified learning activities. So some of you kind of had the experience maybe of losing the game because you didn't get all the stars that you wanted to. But the goal of these Sparkl activities is it helps you as a teacher create interactive gamified activities with focused questions. The goal is to boost student engagement as well as support learning. You can use these Sparkl activities for all subjects and all grade levels. There are multiple types of Sparkl interaction types, different types of questions. There are certain response types that are meant to help the students learn the content. They are going to use cognitive science principles to help students respond to prompts. It does give that instant feedback with a goal of boosting learning and focus. There's going to be some assessment question types. I saw somebody in the chat said this would be a formative assessment tool, and that is correct. So these question types could be used as exit tickets, independent practice, or to help students review the lesson content. There's also other types, there's long form text where students can type a lot. There's drag and drop questions. If you're a math teacher, there's a place where students can create equations or they can, actually write the equations. So there's lots of different options for all of the different interaction types. So this is a quick demo, this video, a quick demo of what Sparkl looks like. Rather than actually watching that video, I know we had some people who had some problems kind of accessing the Sparkl activity itself and asked if we weren't able to get in, can you demo it on the screen? So what I'm showing you here right now is a demo of what it would look like to students. So you see here that we have the objectives or targets, so what the students will do. This activity includes 5 exercises. You can earn up to 45 stars. My internet's malfunctioning. That's not good. Let me refresh and see if it works this way. If not, I'll have another option that we can look at. Let's see if it'll work for me this time. Okay, so we started off with some text, so it gives the student some instructions. Then once I have read that, I'm going to click this little arrow. And then we're going to have some fill in the blank questions. So fill in the blanks as you reread the text. I've got 1 out of 1 star. And then it's going to ask me, what is an algorithm? I have a multiple choice step now, or multiple choice question. Now, as you see me work through these, I, as the quote unquote teacher for this, or as the trainer for this session, I created this lesson. I input the correct answers. So for these, the little robot there that you see in the background, it's able to automatically kind of grade these. And I'm going to put in that answer. So you'll see some of these questions, I'm not just answering one time, I'm answering multiple times. So not just select the correct answer, but then go and fill in the blank. And I won't do all of these, but I know we had some questions with the highlighter, so I'm going to make sure everybody knows how the highlighter works. So we're going to click that highlighter, and then I'm going to use my cursor to highlight. That's an example of an algorithm. I can say check my work. I can highlight these other ones. So highlighted it. These are all examples of algorithms. I know we had some people that kind of, the highlighter tool was a little tricky, so that may take some training for students to use. But I can highlight my answer there and see 4 to 4 stars in the exercise. So I'm not going to go through all that, but that hopefully gives you just kind of an idea of what those Sparkl activities would look like in the classroom. There's all different response types that you can put. You can do videos and then ask students a question about the video. And then what I want to show you now is what those teacher analytics would look like. So let me close out of that. So this is the Sparkl activity that you guys completed earlier, you tried to get logged into and completed earlier. Okay, if you didn't. So this will show all of those different types of exercises. And then I can click right here that says show results table. So this is going to be my teacher analytics. So we're not trying to call anybody out, but we'll see up on the screen, who was able to complete this, who was able to not complete it. And then we had some people, I don't think that they got 0 out of 0. They probably just had some technical difficulties. But once your students complete this, you'll notice I can click on one person. And Madison, I'm not picking on you. I'm just clicking you because you're first on the list here. And I can see on each question how long Madison spent, what the correct answer is, how many stars are available, and how many stars that she actually earned. Now, if I knew Madison, maybe she was a student and came up and told me I could not figure out how that highlighter tool worked, but she was able to tell me the right answer in real life and point out those examples of an algorithm, I can come right here and I can edit her stars to update her score. So in real life, if you were to use this with your students and you have an issue like that, somebody just didn't figure out the highlighter tool, so they couldn't quite figure out the right answer, you have the option to go in and change their responses. And now one of the points I was kind of making earlier is if, let's say you put a video clip and that video is 4 minutes long, but you go in and look at that student's response and see they only watched that video for 10 seconds, then we know they probably didn't watch the whole thing. So this is just a good way to keep a check on the students and, did they actually do what we expected them to do? We can also get results by exercise. So this is more the results of the whole class. So we could look and see which responses, which questions, which content ideas did those students struggle with. We can look at those whole class responses as well. Now, as for how you can share this with your students, once you create this, you'll have an option to have this activity link. So I can share this link with my students. I can give them the QR code. I can automatically add this to Google Classroom as well. So there's lots of different options as to how you can actually get these Sparkl activities out to your students. All right, I'm going to head back to our slide deck here. And then our final thing that we're going to do today before we get to our questions is making sure everybody can add this mini lesson and Sparkle activity to your content collection. So I'll demo all this, but what we're practicing here is you navigating into Alex, getting into my content collections, and adding content to your sandbox. So you're going to come away today. Maybe you didn't have time to finish a lesson with that lesson plan companion, but you will have at least a mini lesson with the Sparkle activity added to your sandbox. So that way you can come back to it later. So I have the instructions on the screen, but I will also demo this for you. So once you are logged in to Alex, so I'm going to get back to my main page here. So once I've signed into Alex, I'm going to click on My Content Collections. So that is the folders with the teacher. I'm going to go to My Content Sandbox. And this is a place, I think we had a question earlier. If we're not able to see that add content button, what's going wrong? Why can't I see it? And we said, number one, depending on the size of your device screen, you may have to scroll down to the bottom. You may, if you have your window really zoomed in, or really zoomed out, you may not be able to see this at the very bottom. So you may have to go back to just normal view, but you're going to look for that add content. And this time you are going to click this import shared option. So you're going to do import shared, and you're going to do import shared lesson. You are going to enter in the code L4812. So now you are going to have access to the mini lesson as well as that Sparkle activity that I just demoed for you. We looked at the analytics. You may have gotten to complete it earlier. So you are adding this to your own content sandbox. Now you have your own copy. You can go back and look at this. You can edit it. You can have it for your use. And just as a reminder of what we talked about today. So I'll go through those steps one more time, and then we will get to our wrap up. So how to get to that point is we started off on the Alex homepage. We clicked on My Content Collections. We clicked on the gray My Content Sandbox tile. We clicked on Lessons. We clicked on Add Content. That should be at the very bottom of your screen. I made sure to click Import Shared. Import shared lesson, and then I entered in L4812. So once I enter that in and click import, you should see the mini lesson along with that Sparkle activity that you completed added to your content sandbox. So now you have that going forward. You can go back and look at it, use it. It is yours to keep. Right, so I'm going to head back now to our slide deck. We did have one more breakout room scheduled, but we have unfortunately run out of time for that. But that is okay. Time flies when you're having fun. So we're going to skip over that. But I'm going to wrap us up with this final question. And you can type your answers in the chat or you can respond out loud. How can you use Sparkle with your existing lesson plan? So we just kind of did a demo. We looked at the analytics. You may have had time to complete one on your own. How do you think that you could use Sparkle with your existing lesson plans in the classroom? Yeah, so we have lots of exit tickets ideas, formative assessment. Good. Yeah, great activity to see where the students are. Let students practice. Yeah, we even have, so some people are saying exit slip. We have some people are saying a warm up. So you could kind of assess students' current knowledge by using some of these questions. So you can create Sparkle activities that correspond with your existing lessons. You can create Sparkle activities based on Alex learning resources. So for the one that you did today, I found that mini lesson about planting a seed, and then I created that Sparkle activity to match up with that mini lesson. So that's something you can do. Or you can create a new lesson plan, like you started a new lesson plan today. You can create a new Sparkle activity to go along with it. So there's lots of different options when it comes to those Sparkle activities. So to wrap us up before we get to our sign out, does anyone have any questions about Alex before we wrap up?
Hannah, there was a question in the chat about a PDF or a guide for how-tos.
For Sparkle?
For the website, and yes, we haven't gotten to Sparkle just yet, but maybe show them on the homepage, the handbook.
Yes, I'll do that. And I will say on this slideshow right here, there is where it says click for more, there is a whole other slide deck just on Sparkle. So, if you want, and it's a little bit more in depth. So if that's you and you want to get more in depth with Sparkle, there's a link here. It's also, if you have the slide deck that's in the speaker notes, so you can get to it either way. And we are working on getting a user guide up for Sparkle. But if you ever need to refresh your memory about what we've talked about today, you want more information, on our homepage, we have our Tech Tips playlist. So those are like short, easily digestible little video clips, 5 minutes or less. It'll essentially review what we've talked about today. So you can get those in video format. And then we also have the corresponding text information here. So if you prefer to read over watch a video, you can click this link for the Alex LOR handbook, and that will also have all of that same information. So if you like to read step-by-step guides rather than watching a video step-by-step guide, we've got you covered there too. And that's all on the homepage. All right, so before we get to that sign out page, I'm going to put our final contact information up here. So we do love to stay connected with all of our educators. If you have any questions, you can always email us, administrator@alabamalearningexchange.org. You can also stay connected with us on social media at Teach with Alex on all those social media platforms. We do have a monthly newsletter. So the bit.ly link is up there as well as the QR code. So that'll get you to either one. And then we also have lots of different QR codes here. If you have time, I would greatly appreciate you completing our evaluation form here. There's a link as well as that QR code. So that just lets me know what you thought about today's session and what I can improve for our next session. There's the link again to the slide deck and the link to the newsletter. We do have a